Good evening, board. I'm going to share with you some information regarding our 2020-2021 boundary process. So I'm going to share my screen and walk you through some slides that has all the information laid out for you. So first of all, our rationale for our boundary process. One is to proactively serve in addressing future campuses for the duration of the Bond 2016 campaign. As you know, we have elementary number 8 coming online, and we believe this process gives us an opportunity to look at our boundaries holistically. So we know we need to have school boundaries for elementary number 8. We're also opening up phase 2 of Heritage High School, and we know we need to revisit our high school boundaries to ensure we have capacity at both schools and alleviate some of the overcapacity at Midlothian High School. But it also is a good time when we look at this holistically to possibly reevaluate our middle school boundaries as needed and see if there needs to be any changes. Additionally, with COVID-19, growth and enrollment have changed some, and the housing market has also been coming online quicker with many subdivisions that we thought were forecasted a few down the road, but now have moved up and they're starting to break ground now. And so we need to revisit that information and that demographic information as well. We also want to be able to provide clear and consistent communication from process to implementation, and we thought taking a holistic approach and just sharing the boundary information for elementary, middle, and high is the best approach. So this communication process would actually begin in November after our board workshop, but we do have October on here because we will be sharing this information with our staff. And it will also go through March, April of 2021 when the board takes action. All of these changes are effective the fall of 2022. So in essence, gives all of our families a year in preparation. And it also gives our district an opportunity to review our grandfathering options and modify policy as we feel is needed. So the purpose of our boundary process is very similar to when we did our Dietrich middle school process, and it's to convene a community committee comprised of parents, staff, and students to review and provide recommendations for elementary, possible modifications to middle school, and newly defined high school zones. And here's our recommended parameters of this process, and it's very similar to the process that we followed for Irvin, the parameters for Irvin and for Dietrich Middle School. And one is to balance enrollment across MISD, keep neighborhoods and subdivisions intact, leverage natural boundaries as much as possible, review and follow district policy on grandfathering options. So here's a little more information about our community committee process. It's very similar to when we were looking at Dietrich Middle School. And this community process is roughly about 25 plus participants. We want to take representatives from each elementary zone. We have 7 of them, and we want 3 from each elementary zone. We believe this will give us the best cross-section of our entire MISD. We also want to pull 2 representatives from our larger subdivisions and at least 1 representative from rural or smaller subdivisions in that matrix. And our demographer has given us those ranges, what would qualify as larger subdivisions, rural, and smaller, so we can follow that to ensure we have this committee to fidelity when it comes to representation. We also are going to include some principals, athletic and fine arts coordinators, because we do have athletic programming and fine art programming impacted by some of these decisions. And as always, we want to grow our leaders. And so we're going to also ask 2 of our aspiring leaders academy members to join us to give them some experience in facilitating community committees and look at how that decision-making process happens. Also, we will continue to do the participation by nomination. Anybody can nominate themselves or a friend to serve. And we'll also do a lottery selection, very similar to when we were doing Dietrich Middle School boundaries. And as always, these committee members will serve at large. While they'll give us input and feedback from what's going on in their school communities, but overall their role is to make decisions and recommendations based upon the district as a whole. So here's our timeline. We're coming to you tonight for information. On November 16th, we're going to take board action and communication regarding the process and opportunity to serve, so people can start signing up at that time. December 7th and 8th, we will pull names, contact participants, email our participants with their roles and responsibilities, meeting dates and times. And due to the winter break, we will launch our first meeting on January 6th, and we'll begin that through January and February, and we'll have committee meetings from 5:30 to 7. However, we will give the board an update at the January 19th board meeting, and we'll also provide recommendations to the February 15th board meeting. And as we lead into the community information evening and lunch sessions, where the whole community is invited to ask questions and provide input and feedback. March 3rd and 4th, we're going to ask the committee to meet to review and the input and make adjustments as they see fit or as if they are necessary, and then come back to you in March for board discussion and action, and also the communication will begin once the board takes action. March and April, we don't define dates on that because there may be some further discussion that you might have as a board in moving forward with these boundaries, and we're giving that time. But as long as we make our decision in that time frame, we can have an effective full school year of communication. So as we want to talk about communication, how are we going to continue the transparency of this effort? Just similar to like we did with Dietrich, we'll also have a website designated to these school boundaries where we will post agendas and presentations. We'll also update our community via social media. We have our electronic newsletter, MISD Connect, that goes out once a month, and we will keep our community apprised of that, but also we'll keep people updated during our Thursday lunchtime community update. We'll also email all parents when the process starts to invite them to follow along on our website and to see if they want to participate in the process. And we'll also email parents as those input opportunities in February come online. And then of course, email all parents regarding decisions and next steps, whether they are impacted by the change or what are the grandfathering options that they may have. So come November, we will ask these recommendations for consideration and board action. Our administrative recommendation for the board approval is to convene a community committee, as I had mentioned earlier, to serve in this capacity to bring forward a recommendation. And we also, on the administration, is also asking the recommended parameters for board approval of balancing the enrollment, keeping neighborhoods and subdivisions intact, leverage natural boundaries, and review district policy on grandfathering options, which are all very similar to what we, all the parameters for urban as that was being rebuilt, but also when Dietrich Middle School was coming online. And so I look forward to hearing from any questions or comments and feedback that you may have as well. Thank you.